It's a moonless night over the open ocean, and a Navy pilot is about to do the single most terrifying thing in all of aviation. Slam a 50,000-pound fighter onto a pitching, postage-stamp deck he can barely see at 150 miles an hour. That pilot is a United States Navy carrier aviator, and that landing, the night trap, is the moment his entire day has been building toward. To understand how he gets there, and why even the best pilots alive feel their hearts pound hardest in the final 60 seconds of a flight, we're going to follow him through a full 24 hours aboard the carrier. Because here's the secret of his world. Flying the jet is the easy part. It's getting back down onto the ship, especially in the dark, that separates a Navy pilot from every other aviator on Earth. Stay with me. The day never truly starts or stops on a carrier. Flight operations run in cycles around the clock. But for our pilot, it begins in the ready room, the squadron's nerve center. He studies the day's air plan, who flies, when they launch, when they recover, and what the mission is. And on the wall of that room hangs the one thing that quietly rules every pilot's life, the greenie board. It's a color-coded chart displaying the grade of every single landing every pilot has made. Because on a carrier, you are scored on every trap, no matter your rank, no matter how many thousands of hours you've logged. Everyone in that room knows exactly where they stand in the pecking order. We'll come back to why that board is so feared. First, he has to get airborne. He pulls on his gear, the flight suit, the harness, and the G-suit, a set of bladders that squeeze his legs to keep the blood from draining out of his head when he pulls hard turns. Helmet, oxygen mask. Then he walks out onto what may be the most dangerous workplace in the military, the flight deck. Picture 4.5 acres of steel crawling with people and aircraft, where jet engines scream at full power just a few feet away. Those engine intakes can swallow a grown man whole. Jet blasts can pick a person up and hurl them off the deck into the sea. And the steel arresting cables lie under such tension that a snapped one can cut a careless body in half. Everyone out here moves in a precise, color-coded ballet, and a single misstep can be fatal. Our pilot climbs into his jet, runs his checks, and taxis to the catapult. This is the part that looks like science fiction. His jet is locked onto a catapult buried in the deck. He runs the engines up to full power, the whole airframe shuddering against the holdback. He salutes, the signal that he's ready, and then the catapult fires. In about 2 seconds, that 50,000-pound machine is hurled from a dead stop to more than 160 miles an hour, mashing the pilot back into his seat with up to 4 times the force of gravity. There's no gentle roll down a runway out here. The deck simply runs out. If the catapult or the jet fails to do its job, there is nothing off the bow but ocean. 2 seconds, and he's flying. Now comes the part people picture when they think fighter pilot, but it isn't the part that will test him most. Out over the water, the real flying begins. Maybe a combat air patrol guarding the fleet, maybe a strike, maybe hours of punishing practice. He hauls the jet into turns hard enough to drain the blood from his head and gray out his vision, the G-suit clamping down to keep him conscious. He may slide in behind a flying tanker to refuel in midair, threading a probe into a basket streaming behind another aircraft at hundreds of miles an hour. It is demanding, exhausting, precise work. And it goes on and on. A single event can keep him strapped into that ejection seat for hours, sweating under the mask, neck and shoulders aching from the G's, burning through the focus he'll desperately need later. By the time the mission is done, he's already worn down. And then comes the genuinely hard part, getting home. Because the runway he has to land on is moving, tiny, and surrounded by absolutely nothing. And even in daylight, it's brutal. As he approaches, the carrier looks impossibly small, a speck on a vast ocean, with no long runway ahead of him and nowhere to go if he drifts offline. He lines up behind the ship and locks his eyes onto a cluster of lights on the deck's edge that pilots call the meatball, or simply the ball, an optical system that tells him instant by instant whether he's too high, too low, or right on the perfect glide path. The radio crackles. "Call the ball!" He answers, and the landing signal officer, a fellow aviator standing on the deck, and the single most important voice in his world right now, helps talk him down. His eyes run a relentless scan. Ball, Lineup, angle of attack. 4 steel wires are stretched across the deck, and his tailhook needs to snag one of them. The target is the 3rd wire, and the first, closest to the ramp at the back edge, is the one everyone tries to avoid. And the instant his wheels slam down, he shoves the throttles to full power. Because if his hook misses every wire, he has to be flying again before he runs off the far end into the sea. Pilots call that a bolter. The hook skips all 4 wires, and the jet is flung back off the bow to come around and try again. And if the LSO doesn't like the look of an approach, he can flash the lights and wave him off, sending him around no matter how close he is to the deck. Out here, you fly exactly what they tell you. Naval aviators have a name for this kind of landing. They call it a controlled crash. Most people who've watched one would quietly drop the word controlled. And here's what makes it a true 24-hour grind. That wasn't his only flight. A carrier runs cycles around the clock, launching and recovering aircraft roughly every 90 minutes, through the afternoon, into the evening, and deep into the night. Between hops, our pilot peels off his sweat-soaked gear, bolts a meal in the wardroom, gulps bad coffee, and steals an hour of fitful sleep in a cramped rack before he's due back on deck. There's no real rest out here. Only the next brief, the next jet, the next shot off the bow. And as the sun finally sinks into the sea, he climbs back into his gear one more time, drained and bone-tired, for the one flight every pilot quietly dreads. And now, do every bit of that in the dark. This is the night trap, and by near universal agreement, it's the hardest, most frightening thing a pilot can be asked to do. And it isn't some one-time rite of passage. Out on deployment, he may face it night after night for months on end. In daylight, the eye has something to grab onto. At night, over open ocean, there is nothing. No horizon, no skyline. Just a black void above a black sea, and a tiny constellation of lights that is the ship. Worse, the deck is alive. As ocean swells roll beneath the carrier, the stern sinks and the bow rises. So the very spot he's aiming for keeps shifting in the darkness. His brain screams for a fixed reference that simply isn't there. All he has is the ball, his instruments, and that calm LSO voice in his ears, telling him to keep it coming. This is where those fastest heartbeats of the whole day live. He flies the ball down into the blackness, engines roaring, the deck rushing up out of nowhere, and then a brutal jerk throws him forward against his straps as the hook grabs a wire and the jet slams from 150 miles an hour to a dead stop in under 2 seconds. He's down, he's alive, and every second of that pass was watched, judged, and is about to be graded by the LSO, then posted on that board in the ready room for the whole squadron to see. And that's why the greeny board is so quietly feared. The LSOs grade every pass on a brutal little scale. A clean approach that catches the 3-wire earns an OK, the prize everyone chases, while sloppier passes get marked down, all the way to a cut, the grade for an approach dangerous enough that it could have killed someone. Those grades go up on the wall in color, a running leaderboard of who can truly fly the ball. And here's the cruelest part. A pilot can fly a flawless mission, do everything right for hours, but bolt or land on the wrong wire at the very end. And in that room, it counts as a bad night. The flying is never really over until the grade is posted. The violence of the catapult, the strain of the mission, and the cold terror of hunting for a moving deck in the dark, done over and over, graded every single time, no matter who you are or how long you've flown. Because many pilots can learn to fly a fighter. Far fewer can routinely land one on a carrier at night. This is one of the smallest clubs in all of aviation, and tomorrow he'll have to earn his place in it all over again.